get.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jen Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. What to the what is happening, Chris Carter?
Me and Dusty were flashing some gang signs
at each other and almost got caught on camera. Wow.
Oh,
that would have been a great way to start a Wednesday morning.
We have our statistician just over to the side.
He doesn't need to be on camera. Don't worry about all that.
I don't know Dusty's last name.
Oh, that's embarrassing. You've worked with him 2 years.
First name Rusty, last name Dusty.
There you go. What he said.
Keep it up, Dustin. Wait, you're doing great today already, buddy.
Okay.
That's his last.
And now I know. Look at that. Learn something new every day. The Saints might never get over last year's NFC Championship loss.
I'm sorry.
Andrew Luck is already dealing with another injury. Dusty's last name is Waite, and Ezekiel Elliott is still in Cabo. That's where you start the show this morning. The Cowboys' star running back continues his holdout while the team appears to be digging in on their stance of not caving. According to reports, the Dallas Cowboys are not going to let Zeke force their hand. So just how bad could this situation get? Well, the once preposterous idea of trading him is now being floated around. So let us continue to float this. Should the Cowboys trade Ezekiel Elliott with his holdout now entering day 6?
Absolutely not. You don't acquire a player in the draft like Zeke, and now you're going to trade him just because contract demands? He could have easily led the NFL in rushing every season he's been in the league. Easily. Their team is based around his ability to be able to run the football and run it 22 to 25 times a game and be able to have that same durability the next week. One thing about Zeke that makes him so special is he's so consistent. If you watch him when he runs, he very seldom gets tackled in the backfield. He has a great pad level, what they call as a running back. That means his pads can get under your pads, and when contact is made, does he fall forward or does the defender drive you back? And most of the time you see with Ezekiel Elliott, he's falling forward. He understands the running game, the concepts of the running game. He's a competitor. The bigger the game, the better he's going to play. No, absolutely not. Not now. Not right now. Not at the beginning of training camp. Now, if we get to the end of training camp and Zeke wants a couple more $1 million a year than Todd Gurley got, that there's no market out there for that, and I know I'm getting ready to pay Dak, Amari Cooper's on the horizon, they got some other guys on the defense next year, then I would think about it at the end of training camp. But right now, absolutely not. I wouldn't even put feelers out there to what would Ezekiel Elliott in a trade, what would it fetch?
Here's the thing. I don't think the Cowboys should. I cannot eliminate the possibility that they will, because weird things happen in the NFL over the last 8 months. Teams have decided the cool new thing is to trade your best player. Antonio Brown got traded. Odell Beckham Jr. got traded, not because those guys weren't good, not because they were on the downside, not because for Antonio it was about money. For Odell, it was about fit and personality, and he was just about to have that new contract kick in. For Zeke, it would be about money. So I wouldn't do it, but I'll be honest. There's a lot of things the Cowboys have done over the last 12 months I wouldn't have done. I would have. They are just now seemingly finding religion on the constraints of the salary cap. The salary cap rules and regulations did not change between now and when they traded for Amari Cooper. They traded for Amari Cooper knowing his contract situation, knowing Zeke's contract situation, knowing Todd Gurley's precedent, knowing Dak's contract situation, knowing Byron Jones is coming up, knowing DeMarcus Lawrence was playing under the franchise tag. Like, it's not as if they are in a situation. Let's take Washington's football team for a moment, where you spend a ton of money on a quarterback, he then suffers a traumatic leg injury, and now that's going to be dead money on your cap, and you got to do this in the draft with the quarterback. The status quo from when they've made all these decisions has remained the same. I think the only thing that changed is this. They didn't think Zeke wasn't going to show up.
No.
They thought Zeke was going to be a good soldier for another year, and they could deal with his contract a year from now when Dak and Amari most likely are taken care of, when they decide, okay, is Tyrone Crawford going to come off our books? It looks like Byron Jones going to get a ton, but maybe he's not going to have an all-pro season in 2019 like he did 2018. And that's where Zeke's put him in a bit of a trick bag, which is he is their best player. The only hope they have, in my mind, of winning the division is if Zeke plays and plays a full 16 or close to a full 16 games. And now they are up against it because the salary cap is what it is,
right.
and it is a hard cap that you can wiggle around if you want to borrow from future you, but eventually that bill always comes due.
The trend in the NFL now is obviously the passing game. You have these elite passers, and you sort of write your script based on that. And Jerry Jones is sort of trying to sell this idea that the NFL has devalued the position of the running back, that it's not necessary to win a Super Bowl. But Dak Prescott's not an elite passer, and Ezekiel Elliott is the focal point of their offense. So it's really hard, and maybe in other situations you could see this with the running back, you could potentially trade him. But what are the Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott, especially if Jerry Jones wants to win this year or next?
Right, when you look at the way the team was built, they were ready to have some success. They thought it was going to be with Tony Romo. They had that young offensive line. Tony Romo was at the end of his career. They have this great draft. They get Ezekiel Elliott. They get a guy, Dak Prescott. We don't know what he's going to be. He's a fourth rounder. Hope he's an NFL backup and that one day that he's a starter. But things happen in the NFL. All right, Tony gets hurt. Zeke is amazing. Dak comes in and is able to manage, play a very manageable game. Like, wow, he looks like an NFL quarterback. And the way the team was built, it was built ready to win right then, not into the future, because those offensive linemen, you can't have 3 of your offensive linemen. They're in the top 5 at their position. You can't have a wide receiver who's going to be in the top 10 of his position. A quarterback's going to be in the top 10 or 15. And then now you want a running back who wants to reset the market. So, no, this team was built to have some success. They found money in Dak Prescott in that 4th round with Tony Romo being injured. So I thought that first year was the best opportunity for him. And now Dallas, as far as managing the salary cap, Jerry Jones is like, listen, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones is going to have to deal with this into the future because the Jerry Jones, the decisions he made 17 and 18, they didn't get paid off because they didn't win the Super Bowl. But, man, they've been right up against the cap. So they haven't mismanaged it, but that salary cap hadn't been real friendly to the Cowboys.
And I'm so glad you mentioned the name Tony Romo because, to me, people forget the way this fell. 2014, Tony Romo had the best year of his career, led the NFL in passer rating, led the NFL in yards per attempt, set his career high in passing touchdowns. And that was the Dez caught it, Dez didn't catch it year, where they were 12-4, they had a great season, and it falls flat because of that. The next year, Tony gets hurt. And the season falls apart. The following year, Tony gets hurt in the preseason. Dak takes over, and they have that brilliant 13-3 season. And then they make the decision that I bet still at moments keeps Jerry Jones up at night, which is he said goodbye to his adopted son for his new adopted son, Dak Prescott. And since then, because now when you see how long quarterbacks are playing, Tony Romo, I looked it up this morning, 39 years old today. Like, it's not his birthday today, but as we say today, he'd be 39. That's a reasonable age to still be playing quarterback. They decided to move on from Tony, who was Jerry's guy, for Dak. And then they have continually tried to make decisions to make sure that decision is validated. That's why you trade for Amari Cooper, who now jumps Zeke in the pay line. That's why you don't have a cheap first-round pick on your roster right now, instead going to be an expensive receiver. That might be one of the reasons you said last year, we got to pay Dak. Dak's franchise quarterback. You don't get rid of Tony Romo unless you got a franchise quarterback.
And that's why you need to make sure you pay your offensive line to protect a guy like Dak.
To protect him, all of it. And now you got the best player on your team saying, okay, I'm in Cabo. Good luck. Let me know when you're going to actually pay me what you said you were going to pay me a few months ago. And the Cowboys in a really rough spot.
We'll wait and see how this one turns out. All right, take a break coming up. Some bad news for the Colts as Andrew Luck sitting out because of Kevin Durant. That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.